已经开始了。我这时候点屏幕共享，好的，点了。他说这个摄像头暂时不可用。哦，点一下摄像头是吧？好，我点一下摄像头。好，可以看到了。然后我再点一下那个互动的那个是吧？哎，我的摄像的互动的不能点，我一点这个就出问题。对呀，屏幕小助手上有一个那个小白框啊，我重新来一下。哎呀，我这个等一下啊，我这个再重新来过一下，点一下摄像头，是底下那一排是吧？紧挨着摄像头有一个那个点点点的是吧？我是啊，我现在移在小助手上了。哦，看到了，看到了。没有哎。小白框哪个呀？是就在右边的那个吗？右边不是点点？对呀，那是点点点的呀，3个点的呀。我一点就不行。我现在鼠标在那个3个点，我点过去，现在叫互动。我一弄过去，它就叫出来，底下出来一个叫互动。直播软件，回到我的 PPT 页面啊，行，好的，说了，我好打开了，移过来了。我看到了，但是它右边是有一个小白框，里头有3个3个点。我知道，我刚才点过，我一点它就出问题。我再点一下啊。哎，我点了呀，没反应哎。我点了，我看看这出来了没有？它这又跳回来了，奇怪。它这里又让我打开什么直播摄像端什么的，这不管啊，我回来了，回到软件的界面了，左边有 PPT， 是的。可以啊，我来试一下啊。那我先结束直播是吧？结束屏幕共享在哪呢？我看一下。好的，我把这个关掉是吧？小叉好，关掉了。现在回来了啊。PPT 点开了。哎，这个不对呀，这个应该是另外一个下面还有一个是吧？点开了。这就可以了是吧？然后那个聊天就在右边了是吧？那行，那这样的也行啊。好的，好。 哎，好的，到点我就开始啊，好，谢谢。哎，好 ，OK， 拜拜，嗯。Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me? Well, okay, so let's get started. In the first part of this presentation, we gave an introduction on basically the general artificial intelligence, what AI is, and in the second part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about it's going to divide in two parts. In the first part is the introduction to the planning and the design of Postal Express intelligence system. In the second part of the talk, I'm going to talk about some smart postal information systems. Well, the learning targets of this part is there are three parts, three targets. The first target is to try to understand the relationship between postal, courier, and logistics. And the second target is to try to understand the Postal Express intelligence systems. And of course, the eventual target is try to master the common methods of planning and designing intelligence system for Postal Express delivery system. Well, this part is going to further divide it into three sections. The first section is the introduction of the postal and courier systems, and the second part is the Postal Express intelligence systems, and the third part is the Postal Express intelligence system planning and design. So I'm going to try to talk about some methodologies that are commonly used to design and plan Postal Express intelligence systems. Well, so I'm going to talk about what a post system is, and then try to give a brief introduction on the express delivery industry, and then I'm going to talk about the relationship between Postal Express and the logistics. Well, postal, is a earliest and most widely used communication methods in the history. We know the postal system exists very early on. And with the development of social and advance of the science and technologies, the postal system, the position of a postal system in the communication field, has been challenged, right? We now have a lot of different kind of communication methods. But in some other areas, the content of the post system has undergone tremendous changes, as we know. So I'm going to try to give a very brief introduction on the Asian post systems, and then try to go to the traditional post systems, and then eventually going to lead to modern systems. Well, in the Asian time, for example, in China here, in the Yuan period, right? That was many years ago. It's like 3,000 years ago. China already has these organized communication activities, right? In the Western Zhou dynasty, China already had a relatively complete postal station systems. In the spring and autumn period, and people felt that the current logistics speed was very slow at the time, and they were given a means of transportation to what they call a brother horse, right? It's like a messenger, right? The messenger typically used a horse at the time. The upgraded version of this mailing is called a ma chuan. And of the Qing dynasty that unified the country, the postal station system has been unified, again. And at the time, the dynasty, the government was trying to ensure timely arrival of official documents and letters. So actually, it came out a law, right? It's called a law of running script. And there were two types of these documents. One's called a urgent mail, that says delivery now, right? It has to be delivered immediately. And the general documents that are delivered on the same day. And then later, the dynasty took over the Qing dynasty, and the great banner only fast, and people work hard to speed up the postal industry. And during the Tang dynasty, the messenger was able to speed up to 500 miles, right, at the time. And not only has the speed of delivery been improved, but the type of delivery service has been improved as well. They became a different type of delivery service came to exist. In the Tang dynasty, and there were already a home delivery service that used to deliver fresh fruit and vegetables. And the most famous recipient was, the Yanggui Fei, right? In order to satisfy Yanggui Fei's preference for eating fresh lychees, and the Tai Shu Zhong, they built a express road from Luzhou to Xi'an. That was like 1,000 miles away. In the Song dynasty, they were even more powerful, right? They were what we call a takeout industry that performed calls on a daily basis. So every day, you could put on something for delivery, and can be done. And there was a picture of the restaurant guy who did not know where he was delivering takeout goods, right? I mean, so it was paint picture or a picture of the Chongqing on the river. This was a very famous painting, right? And in the Ming and the Qing dynasty, and there were various private courier companies began to appear. I mean, that's we in China here, we call it the darts. And the first officially organized darts ball was born during the Qinglong region of the Qing dynasty. And in 1913, there was pretty much like 100 years ago, the Beiyang government, they announced the cancellation of the country's postal stations, and the Asian postal station system became history. And then the Beiyang government was trying to build a new postal system. And at the time, the post, right, it had, as an official communication agency, there was mainly open to the general public, and it's mainly used for transmitting letters that began in Europe in the 17th century. So there were two origins of the post. One is the Asian post system, and the other is the private delivery organization. The post is an official communication institute that was generally open to the society and mainly focused on the delivery of letters, right? I mean, at the time in Europe, at the time they basically just used the post system to deliver letters. And there were two origins of the post. One is the Asian post. One is the, as we said a while ago, one is the Asian post station, and the other is the private delivery organization. And in the 1840, and the British government actually adopted the idea of the rolling hill. I mean, it's kind of is like a postal reform. It's basically pretty much very important, and they reform the postal system, which is they call it first postal reform. That actually includes three things: the implement of a uniform tariff system, right? I mean, because you have to pay for the service, and they use the post stamp prepayment and issue stamps, right? It was the first time in the history, the government issued stamp. And reiterating that the post is exclusively owned by the state, and the business is open to all users. So basically, at the time, it was owned by the state, so it became a government business. And this reform is very much important. It's a kind of like a milestone in the history of the World Postal Service. So it basically clarified the basic characteristics of the traditional postal service. And it also established a basic operational model for postal service in various countries. And this is the stamp, right? What we call it, dragon stamp. It was the first time when China used stamp. And there was a kind of like a traditional postal service system. And And after the 1990s, right? I mean, there were a lot of reforms in the postal sectors. So it's kind of like a second reform in the of the world post system. Well, at the time, because we already have a lot of modern methods, right, for transportation and for telecommunications. The postal reform in many countries shows, a few basic characteristics of the modern postal service, right? I mean, basically, the postal system and the telecommunication, there was a separation between postals and the telecom. And also there was a separation of government and the enterprise and the independent postal operations. And the postal market is gradually opening up to the general public. And the scope of postal is narrowing down. And there were emphasis on the fulfillment of multiple forms of universal service, right? It's kind of become an obligation of the government for the general public. And there was a combining of postal service with the modern, all different kind of modern technologies. Many, because there were a lot of these different new transportation technology. So the basic scope of the postal enterprise, there were, for example, in China, the Article 14 of the postal law, there were a few regulations, right, that came to place. So the law regulated that the main business of postal enterprise are the following: of course, the mail delivery, right, and the postal exchanges, right. You could just say, kind of like exchange postal thing, and there was the issuing of stamps, and also the production and the sales of the stamps. And certainly there were a time when there were a lot of people trying to collect stamps, and also sales of domestic newspapers, books, and other different kind of publications. So these are the four, main business scope, right, of the postal enterprise. Well, in China here, the government has a what they call a China Postal Postal Express and Logistics. So this organization actually has 6 business sectors. It's basically a joint stock company established in 2010 by the China Postal Group Corporation. There was the main promoter, and also approved by the State Council. So it actually provides a lot of different kind of comprehensive logistic service. And the network coverage is a full coverage of the whole country. So the China Postal Express and the Logistics, this organization actually has established branches in all the provinces, right, in the 31 province regions, and they have subsidiaries everywhere. And as of the end of 2018, the company actually has a registered capital of the 25 billion yuan and nearly
160,000 employees, and the business scope covers all cities, countries, and also all the countryside as well. And also there were more than 200 countries and regions in the world. So they have a lot of different. They have 500 self-service outlets. So this organization is mainly engaged in domestic express and international express, contract logistics, and other services as well. So the domestic and international courier service covers value-added service. For example, like the like economic time frame, there was a actually it covers a lot, right? It also has the collection of payments. So the contract logistics covers the entire supply chain, right? For example, like warehousing and transportation, all kinds of things. In the 2013, the Nanjing distribution center was formally put into full use. So they were building a lot of warehousing, and in 2017 they built a Wuhan, the land mailing processing center, and also at the same year, they have an intelligent document tracking system, right? They built this tracking system. They were applied on the entire network of the express logistics. So they could do the scheduling and operations, and according to the time limit. And they used it to regulate the quality of the mail operations in a very much standard way. And also they built a national cloud warehousing network. So the capacity is that they could handle millions of orders, every day. And the express delivery, right? Yeah, it actually in this century, right? We see a lot of the expansion of the express delivery. Well, the express, right? I mean the express service actually refer to expressly packaged and addressed express shipment, and certainly they are fast received and fast shipped and fast delivery. So the express items, they generally refer to documents or packages, right? Delivered by the courier companies. So the documents in general include like letter and banknotes and contract, and things like that, generally in paper form. The packages, right, they include company information, goods, and samples, spare parts, and things like that. And well, there were a few things, we need to clarify. For example, like the official documents of the state agency can be delivered by carrier companies. And in the Article 5 of the Postal Law of the country, stipulate that postal delivery service within the scope prescribed by the State Council should be expressly operated by the postal enterprise. And there was another Article 55, stipulated that the express delivery company should not engage in postal service exclusively for postal enterprise and should not post official documents of the state agency. Right? So basically, the state and this kind of regulate the official documents, right? Delivery. Well, there were different kind of express business, right? There are, of course, based on the way we do the classification. For example, if we classify the express business by the method of transport, right? So we have this air express and highway and railway, warehousing express. And if we classify by the coverage, right? So it has domestic and international. And if we classify by the subjects, so we have the foreign express enterprise, state-owned, and also domestic private. And if we classify by the delivery time, and there were foreign express and the state-owned, different type. And if we classify by the liability, right? So it has the arrive on the same day and next morning service and next day, and that was by the liability. And if we try to classify by the business method, so it was like insured express and also the ordinary express. So if we classify by the payment, right, the method of payment, so we have like basic business and value-added business. And if we classify the settlement, and it has basic business and value-added business. So that different. It depends on the way we do the classification. So there are different type of the express business. Well, this picture shows, right? So it's the we see these huge backpacks and widely electronic tricycle, right? I mean, it's a kind of like messy shipment. So actually, the express industry is much more than this. Well, let's take a look at one example, right? We say is Shunfeng Express. So the Shunfeng's the whole business, the entire business is based on logistics, integrated finance, and circulation business. So if we look at the website of the Shunfeng Express, there are actually three parts: the express service, and the cold transport service, and the storage service. So these are the three major parts of the Shunfeng business. Well, they have a very widely, used the warehousing in Shunfeng. So that basically, this the receiving management, shipping management, inventory management, and personalized service and information service is very much, they use a lot of different kind of information technology. and they does this express financing as well. So basically, there are three sectors: the credit business, the comprehensive payment, and finance technology. So in the Shunfeng financing, the financing technology they used, that typical products, like for example, like the smart map and address anti-fraud and relationship networking and intelligent customer recommendation engines. That different kind of these products, right, are being used by the Shunfeng financing. And they also have these two sectors, right? It's called optimize the online shopping mall, and they also they call optimize store. So basically, this Shunfeng technology, right? I mean, they have a very strong strengths, and they leading in terms of manpower and ability and financial resource. They actually has a pretty big R&D group as well, so they file a lot of patents, right? So and actually, yeah, it's a they were like 40% are the invention patents. So I mean, after we have seen this, right? I mean, do you still think that Shunfeng is only a delivery carrier? Well, the answer, right, is that the Shunfeng Holding is a leading domestic express logistics integrated service provider. They basically call themselves integrated service provider. So after years of development, they established the ability to provide customers, they call it integrated logistic solutions. So it does only provide high quality logistic service at the distribution end, and they also extend to production, supply, distribution, and the sale. So reaching the front end of the value chain as well. So based on the customer demand, they use data as a leading force, right? They use a lot of these information technologies. They also use big data analysis and the cloud computing. They have their own cloud data center. So Shunfeng actually provides customers with a package of solutions, right? They have this warehousing management, sales forecasting, big data analysis, and also the financing management. So it's really kind of like an integrated service provider. And they are also an intelligent logistic operator, right? They have this network scale advantage. I mean, it has a big logistic network. So that could be accessible both at the home and abroad. They have this air transportation. They actually have they call it Skynet, composed of fully cargo. They have different cargo aircraft. And they got this ground net. There was like composed of a kilometers network. They also have this, they call it information net, that composed of various big data, blockchain, machine learning, and operational optimization. voice, image, computer vision, and smart security, AI identification, and smart logistic maps. So all kind of technology, different kind of technology are being used in Shunfeng. And they are also an operator, right? So they actually just use all these solutions, sometimes develop their own house, and sometimes provided by some other companies, right? I mean, yeah, it's kind of like really running the system in a very intelligent way. Well, the relationship between Post, Express, and logistics, and certainly the express delivery, right, is part of this logistics. So it's kind of like a sub-industry, right? And express delivery basically includes the basic activity of logistics. So it's kind of like a fine logistics. And the postal industry is bigger, right? It means the postal industry include the postal service and the express service. And the competent government department has clearly stipulated that express delivery belongs to the postal industry. So the express delivery is actually part of the postal industry. But there are two main differences, right? The first is that the postal service is characterized by they call it universal service. So basically, it's like government pricing and the financial subsidies and comprehensive coverage and not requiring timelines, but they provide basic service to everybody. And another characteristics of the express delivery is that the enterprise can differentiate, right? Like in terms of like pricing, and the government is responsible for the supervision, and the delivery network is determined according to the market demand to meet the individual needs. So these two things are, there are two differences between. So in a modern postal industry, and we see this postal and logistics and the express. So a modern postal industry should include all this, right? We say like basic businesses supplying postal, courier, and logistics service, and related value-added service. They were like supporting these different kind of the industry. Well, the intelligence postal express system, right? I mean, say, so we are going to learn the meaning of the intelligent postal system, and we are going to see the classification of the intelligent postal express system, and also we see the smart logistics. So the based on the extensive application of the Internet of Things, right? The intelligent system of the Postal Express is a newly integrated intelligent system, so which basically integrates the supplier and the demand of the modern Postal Express business. using the information integration, technology integration, and the Postal Express business management system integration. They use advanced information collection, transportation, processing, and also the information management technology, and also the processing technology. They are all different kind of technologies. And the express system, right? They should have the ability of thinking, perceiving, learning, reasoning, and judging and solving problems in the Postal Express business by itself. So that was the the role of intelligence should play here. And in terms of the classification, so it could classify by the intelligence representation, right? They include the intelligent hardware subsystem and intelligent software subsystem and other subsystems. And if we clarify by the business perspective, then it includes intelligent postal system, intelligent express system, and other subsystems. And the intelligent logistics, well, it's basically the use of the integrated intelligent technology to enable the logistics system to imitate human intelligence, right? So it's basically how we use the artificial intelligence technology in this logistic industry. So it should have the ability to think, perceive, learn, and reason, and judge, and solve problems in the logistics on their own. So it basically includes a number of these basic activities, for example, like intelligent storage, and the intelligent transportation, and intelligent distribution, and intelligent packaging, right? And also intelligent loading and unloading, and the circulation processing, and acquisition processing. All this information should be acquired, should be processed intelligently. So now we start to think about how to plan the planning and the design of intelligent system of Postal Express. And then we're going to think about various common methods of planning and the design of intelligent system of Postal Express. Well, the planning and the design of the intelligent system of Postal Express, I mean, it's basically trying to plan and design each subsystem of the intelligent system of the Postal Express by using the theory and the method of, we call it system engineering. So it's basically we need to look at the whole thing as a system, and we try to analyze problems in the scope of a system level. So in order to achieve the operation of the overall goal, right, we basically need to set up a goal, and then we try to use different kind of optimization methodology to try to achieve the overall goal. And to optimize or adjust the various functions of the intelligent system of Postal Express to ensure the sound, healthy, and orderly operations and the development of intelligence of the Postal Express. So there were different kind of methods, right, for planning and the design of intelligent postal express system. Well, for example, like a networking method, mathematical programming. So once we have a mathematical model, then we can use mathematical programming, try to get an optimization, try to optimize the system. Say use large system theory and use simulation methodology as well, and also use the very comprehensive evaluation method. So we are going to go through this, right? So the network method. So the network method is mainly used to solve the problem of what we call the project scheduling. Because it's a typically the postal system or the express system, right? There are many large network, and there were basically two very standard methods used for project scheduling. One is called a PERT, the other is called a CPM. The PERT stands for Program Evaluation and Review Technology, and it's also known as Plan and Review. And CPM stands for Critical Path Method. Well, the PERT, right? Yeah, it's a typically, so there are like two start time, right? So we, for each node, and we need to have a early start time and also the latest start time. So from the earliest start time, we can do the forward calculation, and from the latest start time, we do the reverse calculation, right? So each node has a number, and there was a activity duration, right? So from one node to the other node, there was a kind of like a duration, and so we actually the idea is to try to use this network to find a critical path. A critical path basically means that you cannot alter. It's a path that actually stands for the difficulty of this problem. So this CPM, it's a the CPM is a again also used to try to find a critical path. Actually, the mathematical programming is widely used in the logistics. So the mathematical programming basically is kind of a mathematical method. The goal is to try to find the optimal solution under certain constraints. So there are always some constraints, right? Means, for example, like we have the resource constraint. For example, like we only have limited number of people, and so the material, financial, time, they are all limited. All these are limited resource, and also we typically we know the objectives, right? So the objective laws that has to be satisfied, right? So for example, like the for next day delivery, right? We have a timeline. If somebody ship a letter, it has to be arrived in the destination by certain time, right? There was kind of like a objective law. And basically, under the current circumstance, we use this mathematical modeling technology to model the resource as what we call the resource constraints here. And we also have these objective laws that basically regulate all these variables. And the ultimate goal is to try to find the extreme value, right? So we always have an objective. For example, like typically the objective function is to try to minimize the financial, in terms of financial goal, right? So we have to minimize the number of people that we used, and we have to minimize, for example, in the airport transportation, we need to minimize the total mileage, right? That's being used to achieve a certain goal. And once we model, mathematically model the problem, right, in our domain, then the idea is how to employ the mathematical method to try to find the extreme value. And there are different kind of these methods that could be used. The famous ones are like linear programming, integer programming, dynamic programming, and nonlinear programming. And they depends on the problem, the mathematical model, right? If all the relationships are linear, then we use linear programming. If there are certain nonlinear relationships between all the variables, then we use nonlinear programming. And dynamic programming typically used in the scheduling, right? There was a time frame. There was a things that has dependency in terms of the time frame, and in that situation, we could use the dynamic programming. And the so-called comprehensive evaluation method is basically to comprehensively analyze and compare different evaluation factors, for example, like a function, quality, benefit, investment, intelligence, and flexibility, and etc. for various feasible schemes of the intelligence system of the postal express delivery. So we could select a schema, right? I mean, with the best overall effect for implementation. So the key for the comprehensive evaluation method is to select the appropriate evaluation factors, right? Determine the weights of evaluation factors and select appropriate calculation method. This comprehensive evaluation method is used when we couldn't mathematically model a problem, right? So it's not always the case where we could use mathematics to model a problem. Sometimes they were too complete, and the relationship between variables are not clear, and you cannot quantize the relationship. And in situations like this, right, then basically, we need to use this comprehensive evaluation method. And And the simulation method, right? I mean, the simulation method is basically to try to establish the system simulation model. And so we could carry out various tests to understand the characteristic of the actual system represented by the simulation model. And as well as the relationship between various factors, so we could facilitate the analysis of the existing system so as to continuously improve and predict the result of the system and to provide scientific decision-making basis for the selection of the optimal schema of the future system, right? It's also, the simulation is also in the case where we couldn't mathematically model a real problem, but there was a way we could simulate the the problem. And of course, nowadays, right, a lot of people use computers to do the simulation. Well, the large system theory, I mean, yeah, you see, a so-called large system refers to comprehensive system, right, with a very large scale and very complex structure and large number of subsystems and multiple functions and multiple goals and multiple factors. You know, in the logistics, right, for example, like in the Shunfeng's case, right, I mean, the problem, the system they deal with is huge, right? They were, you know, they got all kinds of delivery methods, right? Aircraft, and you know, and also the warehousing, you know, and also involves the human being as the for the last mile, right? I mean, it's a very, very complicated, and it's really what do we call a large system, right? In the largest system, you know, there are different methodologies, right? Yeah, for example, like the typically we have to decompose, right? We have to decompose a large system into several subsystems. You know, the idea is to be able to find certain principle, so we could do the division, right? And also the we should be able to plan and design each subsystem separately, right? So, the way is to decompose the large system into a few subsystems that the boundary, right, has to be clear. So each subsystem could be optimized locally, right? And another thing is that for the large system, we always have an overall goal, right? But there's a coordination between various subsystems, right, to achieve the optimal overall optimized solution. So we need to be able to coordinate between the goals of the subsystems and the overall goal of the large system, right? So this way we could first optimize the subsystem, right, and then the second phase, the first phase to optimize the subsystem, and then go to the second phase to coordinate all the subsystems, try to optimize the overall system, right? So that's kind of like the how there were different kind of methodology, right, that we could employ in the large system theory. And you know, I mean, but these are the kind of like a general principle. And you know, after we have gone through this, right, then we need to think about what functions should the intelligent postal express system have in the future, right? We need to kind of like think ahead. And what will be the characteristics of the planning and the design of the intelligent postal express system in the future, right? And what impact will be the intelligent system of postal delivery on the future work and the life of the human beings? And these are the things that we need to think about, and regarding how the intelligent postal express system will go, right, into the future. And this is the first part, right? It's kind of like very quickly go through the planning and the design of the intelligence postal express system. And in the second part of this talk, I'm going to talk about some very specific smart postal information systems. So first, I'd like to give some background analysis, and then I'm going to talk about a few widely used products and solutions. Well, in China here, the National Postal Service, right? I'm talking about the China Postal Service. The coverage, right, is a, in China here, we got like more than 2,000 countries and cities across the whole China. And, this National Postal Service, they have these own outlets. And the chain outlets, they got like more than 240,000, right? It's many. And it covers more than 1/3 of the administrative villages, even go to the villages, right? It's certainly it covers all the towns, but 1/3 of the villages, right, have their presence. And they are also going very, very fast, right? They have an average annual growth rate of 45%, right, in the past 4 years. It has been grow very, very fast. And if we look at the management system, right, it's a in the left, there are all this process, right? Each thing here is a node in the process, in the business process. Well, the manual mode, right? Is a if we look at this thing, right? If we go do things manually, so certainly, the information communication channels and scopes are very limited. And, it actually has multiple business levels, and certainly the efficiency, right, is going to be very low, and the cost is very high. So if we go to the right-hand side, go to the information, if we kind of like digitalize, we call it informative types this thing, right? So if you look at the whole thing, the whole information model, so we kind of like build up a standardization and a network chain of service capability. We will go straight to the end of the channel, and we achieve effective management, right? So in this large, huge system, the information management is very, very critical. So it's here is how they do the integration, right? We typically got a manufacturer and postal service provider, and we have the retail chain store. You know, we have these three parts, and and the postal service, you know, provider, they kind of like integrate channels, and with the coordinated operations of postal product service providers, you know, third-party logistics service provider, and chain distribution and end customers. So it's now possible to build this network. Everything is networked together and large scale service system for the whole entire this postal business. And let's see, for example, like the like in China here, here, I mean the service providers, right? I mean like China Telecom and China Mobile, and also the they all provide this they call it smart postal service, post solutions and products, right, for the postal industry. And for example, here, if we look at the China Mobile, and because they have this huge mobile network, right? I mean, so they build a lot of smart post projects. They actually provide a very comprehensive analysis of this mobile information professional service in the postal industry. So in the field of this postal information includes this personnel positioning and the staff scheduling, vehicle positioning, conference calls and public interactive service, and other information applications as well. So let's just go through a few examples of this product and solutions this China Mobile is providing. For example, like this, we call it Field Manager. This is a application that China Mobile provide to the they call it smart postal product. So this Field Manager, right, is a mobile data collection solution. So it was launched by China Mobile. So it's basically a system that provides enterprise with the real-time data collection and performs corresponding statistic analysis of this collected data. For example, like the field personnel, I mean, they can complete customer information collection, field task reporting, and task reception, and feedback from all the field activities, right, directly through the mobile phone. And once the data is collected, they transmit this data back to the company in real time. And especially in nowadays, we got this 5G network, right? Yeah, it's we could transport a large chunk of data in seconds. So the system could automatically count and generate reports. So it could meet the needs of the corporation management personnel, right, to dynamically track back of the field staff and the customer needs. So this way we could improve the marketing efficiency. Well, here is like a field manager network solution, right? So basically, for example, like we got the company here, we have a C.I.A, we have OA, and we have ERP, right? And then we built a data network, and we got this field manager. They are typically equipped with these mobile phones, right? So the field manager can achieve several effects, right? I mean, yeah, so, for example, like the mobilization of the field process information. They could complete field information. Recording at one time, we could improve the field personnel behavior management capability, and we could improve the field execution capability. And certainly we could standardize, right? I mean, we got all these mobile applications, and we could quickly control the terminal market. And certainly we could do timely report. And with all the information collected, right, we could do the decision making quickly. And certainly we could increase the market shares and the sales, right? And this field assistant, right, is they've got like a field manager and a field assistant. And this field assistant, right, I mean, got these 5 major functions. We could moving the query, for example, like postal field staff, they could inquire about related information just on the mobile phone, right? They could just do the checking of the data very quickly. And this field personnel, they could upload the cargo and the packaging information, and anywhere, right? I mean, it's just scan things and take a picture and then upload, right? And certainly the mobile phone, right? I mean, yeah, I say that's a positioning system, right? The system always know the position, and they could just use this to record the receiving trajectory, right? I mean, they basically know where the staff, or they always know where the staff is, right? I mean, so they basically to use this thing to do the staff measurement. And certainly the field orders, right? I mean, the field workers, because they are not in the office, they are outside, right? I mean, so these field workers, they could receive work orders anytime, anywhere, right? So the system could just dispatch orders, right, to this personnel in real time. And certainly the manager could use statistical function of the report, right? They could use this to do data analysis, and so they could, make quick decisions. And another thing is that, with this field manager, we could do the field personnel management as well, right? So we could, because we know where they are, so we could do the plan, right? Because the sales personnel, they could use mobile, they have mobile phones, right? That can be used to receive this weekly, monthly work plan, and by the managers. The manager could tell them, what you should be doing next week and things like that. And the manager could send the optical routes. They could tell these personnel how to, where to go, things like that. And also the website, they could convert customer needs into work orders, right? Yeah. So you basically you could do the, we could use this to do the dispatching of the personnel. So this is the second solution called a emergency dispatch system. I mean, the first one is what we call a field manager, and this is what we call an emergency dispatching system. The emergency dispatching system is kind of like a PPT, right? Push to talk service. And based on the China Mobile's network, of course, I mean, the China Mobile, they have this huge network everywhere. So, you know, the few people, right, they could use this push to talk, right? They could communicate with each other very easy. So there were a few functionalities, right, listed here. For example, like we could do this group call. I mean, we could do the group call scan, and we could identify the speaker identification, right? I mean, I say the caller will display their own speech prompt, so listener will display the current speaker. All right, yeah. So based on the account, and there was a strong interruption. So in the group call, a high priority user they have a higher priority. They could just press the PTT key, right, to interrupt a low priority user's call. So typically, supervisors, right, they have a higher priority. They could just interrupt, you know, calls. And there was a time-limited call. Yeah, basically, this time-limited call refers to users who obtain call right. So after the time of the speech exceeds the time specified by the system, so the system will automatically recover the user's call. And there was a data entry, right? After a call, a group call is initiated. The group member who are not in the group can call in, right, later. So it actually has all this bunch of these convenient functionalities. And it also has this like group invitation and online member inquiry and platform management and platform maintenance, right? They basically got all these type of these functionalities. So it also has a very rich management features, right? For example, like you could just set up a group of members as needed, and you could query online and query the group status of a specific number. You know, if you try to find certain people's status, right? So you can always go online and try to find where they are and if they are listening and things like that. And it also supports locating members' position. You always know where they are, right? So you know, for example, like this is a directory of the group, and you got a number, and in the map here, you know where they are, right? So it is pretty useful, you know, for the managers to supervise people. And certainly, you know, you got a lot of choice for these terminals, right? So you got this powerful, all these, you know, different type of models and different type of terminals, and there's a variety of this choice. So there was a second solution. The third solution is they call a video conferencing system. And the China Mobile has developed they call it the cloud video high definition conferencing system. Well, I mean the key is a high definition, right? Because in China here, with the like the Telecommunication conferencing, right? I mean, you can this video conferencing is very much accessible, but let's know high definition video conferencing. So the China Mobile is they call it high definition video conferencing. So this can facilitate the government and the enterprise to hold international meetings, right? And also it could use to do the information exchange at any time. And also they could help solve some difficult problems, right? For example, like if you want to do the remote training, and if we want to do the remote recruiting and things like that. And it basically, if you want very high quality video, they could provide private line as well. Right, so the private line are more expensive, but the quality service is superior. Right? I mean, it's superior than the broadband internet. But if broadband internet is cheap, but the quality is not guaranteed. And the radio terminals of all branches, right, of the company will be placed and connected to the video conferencing platform. So you could set up an internal video conferencing service for the company. And it's also secure as well, right? So it basically uses the VPN networking. So, the data are encrypted, right? So it's safe. And also the video conferencing system, is adopted to support the mainstream image coding, right? So the image coding and the decoding, they are kind of like mainstream. And it also support multiple screen transmission and the dual screen display and things like that, So you could have the videos on the big screen as well. And there was a video conference, right? I mean, so the next one that we are going to talk about is what we call a group sign. Yeah, it's actually very simple application, but it's actually very much useful and very economy. I mean, it's a very cheap solution. So basically, the group sign means that once you call somebody, right, and after the call is end, after the call is complete, right, so you are going to receive a message. I mean, the idea is kind of like that, it's kind of like an advertisement, right? So it's a pretty much a very economic propaganda channel, right? I mean, yeah, so it's also very easy to use, and you could just edit or make your own information to be published. So you could do addition, right? I mean, you could write something there. So when somebody call you and after the call is end, they will receive this message as a short message. So it's done automatically. So basically, when you call somebody, when somebody call you, right, and after the call is end, and they are going to receive this short message, which is you edited, right? So you could edit it right at your own will, right? I mean, and then it's pretty much easy to edit and very convenient. Well, it's also very economy, right? I mean, it's pretty cheap here. Typically a company could buy a large volume of this the service, right? So I mean, everybody in the company can just share the cost. And it got a bunch of this functionality as well, right? It has this, we call it red list, and we could just one click to modify the short message content and, and things like that. Yeah, it's very much easy to use. And it's a very good marketing strategy, business strategy, right? I mean, it's basically you could do personalized service as well, right? I mean, it's based on certain number, and you could send different message. So it's a very much effective advertising, method. So these are the kind of like advantage, right? Yeah, I'd say. And the last product that we are going to talk about is they call it dispatch service. Well, the dispatch service is kind of like a location service. The China provider, China Mobile, provided. So it's kind of like for the group of customer, right? With a real-time vehicle monitoring and the personnel locating. So based on because China Mobile, they have a big network, right? So they could just they got this good coverage for 4G and as well as 5G, right? So when a company use the service, right, you could do the monitoring and the scheduling and the measurement and all kinds of things. So the idea is that the terminal, right, they could receive satellite signal. Well, it could be a mobile network, it could be a satellite, but it depends on where you are. And through the built-in communication module, it has a module that sends and receives information. So the information is sent to the mobile computer room, and the location information is sent as well. So the system always know where this vehicle is. So the main control center, right? They retrieve the information, and they could display this information on the electronic map. So basically, we could use to do vehicle positioning. So it actually has a real-time monitoring of this vehicle position and also the status information, right? If they are moving or not. And you could do the scheduling as well, right? You just kind of like dispatch the vehicle. And certainly, you could do the measurement as well, right? You kind of like do the standardize the team building thing and things like that. And of course, another important thing is that it's kind of like a law enforcement, right? So you kind of like could provide evidence retention, right? I mean, if there was something happen, right? So you always know where they are, So it could be, this information could be used for law enforcement. Okay, yeah. So this is the last the solution that There's the fifth solution, the China Mobile provided, right? Okay, yeah. So so in this presentation, we began with the introduction of planning and the design of the Postal Express intelligence system, right? And then we talk about how to use the different methodology to build the intelligent express system. And in the second part, we kind of went through a few typical solutions and products that are commonly used in this postal industry, right? So that concludes my presentation tonight. Yeah, thank you very much. So if you have questions and suggestions, you can always send to me, right? You could get my email address, in the through the college. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, bye.